Hey guys, how you going? Alright, moving on to the next fact. They will offer bribes to keep their secret. Now, when I first encountered these Archons, these life forms, these beings, I started to learn how to fight back, how to attack them. They approached me and pretty much offered me a bribe. The bribe they hinted towards was basically for me to purchase a truck and start my own small trucking business or trucking company. Then with their assistance and their help, before long I would have a number of trucks and an abundance of cash. Now the offer was quite tempting, I must admit. It was quite tempting, but I actually refused. I rejected their offer simply because the things they have done to me in my life, the wounds that they have inflicted upon me. Basically, although I have faced and healed them wounds, the scars that are left behind are permanent. I have scarring upon me that I will carry with me for the rest of my days because of them. The fact that they offered a bribe, monetary, worldly pleasures, as a form of compensation for what they have done to me, I found it insulting and I refused. Pretty much I was around people and they were hosting these people talking amongst themselves, and they said the reference, "This one is going to be a lot harder than we anticipated. This one is going to be hard work." So what they basically meant was they then knew that there was nothing they could offer me for compensation in regards to what they have done. So anyway, I'll move on to the next fact. Alright, next fact. You can restrict their means of harassing you by the company in which you keep. So what I mean by this is if you hang around the more rough crowd, the more rough type of people, what would be generally considered as the undesirables, the harassment you receive there will be more along the lines of the spitting on the ground, the crude, the foul language, things like that. It'll be more ugly, so to speak. It'll be more disgusting and vulgar, the harassment you receive via these people, because they're generally more prone to that sort of language and activities. If you surround yourself around positive, happy, kind, caring, considerate and compassionate people, yes, the Archons can still harass you through these people, but the severity will be far less, because these people won't be the type to be spitting on the ground around you or use vulgar and harsh language and prone to start fights, physical altercations and things like that. So that's basically what I mean in regards to the company in which you keep. If you surround yourself with good people, well then it does make it a lot harder for their harassment to be placed upon you. Alright, next fact. Your imagination is a valuable weapon or tool that can be used to combat them. For example, the Green Lantern movie. If you haven't watched the Green Lantern movie, I suggest you check it out. It's a movie based on superheroes, but I know that sounds quite childish, but check it out. I'm sure you'll find some hidden meanings and messages within that movie. What I mean by this fact or this example is basically your imagination is a very powerful weapon or tool that can be used against them. If you're aware of them and know of their presence, your imagination is very powerful against them. Things you can do, basically, if you're sitting around a group of people and you feel and notice that the Archons are harassing you through them people, within your mind alone, just using your imagination, you could picture energy balls just flowing around your body, or a bright sphere of light that covers you, not only for self-protection, but the people around you, your friends, family, people you care about, even strangers, mind you. You can picture the same going on around them. Other things you can do is this. I know this sounds childish, but I guarantee you it works. It works. Imagine that if you feel their presence around you, that you do a clap within your mind. You don't physically have to clap, but within your mind, imagine that you go clap, and the sonic boom that comes out of that clap shatters them to pieces, and it works. other little things. Imagine that basically you have a bow and arrow, and the arrows, so to speak, are lightning bolts. And within your mind, imagine that you're shooting it at them. And it works. It works. I know this sounds crazy and childish, but I can guarantee you it works. I've used many things, numerous things, and we are all only limited by our imagination in regards to ways to combat them. All right, moving on. Next fact. They will influence or manipulate you to act out self-destructive behaviour. Example, drugs, crime, suicide. It appears that they get a kick out of, getting inside your mind and making you basically destroy yourself. They, on drugs or, crime, they'll influence you to do crime and then ensure that you get caught or captured or busted or pinched, depending where you're from, what country you're from. There's certain slang words for basically getting caught. Then you'll end up in prison. Drugs, they'll try and influence you to take drugs and then get hooked on them to basically destroy yourself. Suicide is another thing. They will harass you and basically implant suicidal thoughts within your mind because they get a kick out of doing these things to us. The thing is, yes, they can attach to people and all that and get them to do that, but if that person does destroy themselves or kill themselves, it doesn't affect them. They'll just move on to another person. So these are things you have to be aware of, and just keep in mind that they will basically try and make you destroy yourself. All right, moving on. Next fact. Their goal is to spiral society into chaos, a permanent void of darkness. So basically, take a good look around, people. It's everywhere. You look at music videos, hip hop, everything, it's all got a negative influence, a dark agenda attached to it. Basically, their goal is to detach us from our true spiritual nature, our true loving nature, our inner yearning to evolve and grow and learn and expand. By doing what they do, you look everywhere. The hip-hop music videos and that these days, back in the days with Tupac and things like that, there was positive messages and things put inside their music. You look at rap videos and that these days, what's put in there? Lamborghinis, money, bling, show your booty, handle that, be a pimp daddy, smack that hoe, all this sort of garbage that they're poisoning everyone's minds to basically lust for things that are worldly pleasures. Forget about personal growth and yourself and expanding your mind. It's all about the physical, the now, showing off and this and that. They're basically, what they are doing is spiraling society into so much chaos that basically they have the control. By doing these things and keeping us held down and lusting for things that are really irrelevant in the bigger scheme of things, that is basically giving them the control upon us all. The way it goes basically is, just say you have a generation, right? Now, that generation grows up. Now, if they're already basically at a disadvantage, they're raising the next generation. The next generation coming up is at a disadvantage from the ones that have taught beforehand. Then the next generation that's coming up is at an even worse disadvantage, and they're teaching the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. So 4 or 5 generations later, basically there's 5 lots of disadvantages that have gone through those generations. So they're learning less and less and less and less. This is their goal. They're spiraling society into a black void where basically what they say is considered just the way things are. Have a good look around, people. Have a good look around and you will see that what I'm saying in regards to that is very true. Right, moving on. Okay, this one may offend some people, but I've got to say it. Next fact. Religion alone will not protect you from their influence and manipulations. I know this because I've seen it firsthand, people. I have seen people that go to church every Sunday. Every Sunday, you know, they have nothing but the utmost faith in God, in Jesus, and that's fine. I'm happy for them, you know, but religion alone does not protect you from them. I'm telling you now, I have seen people that go to church every Sunday, know the Bible back to front. They can recite every single word within that Bible. I've seen them be hosted and influenced by the Archons. Religion alone is not a full means of protection against them. I guarantee you. This isn't a dig at religion. You know, I'm more than happy for anyone to take on any belief system or religion that they wish to choose. But that alone will not protect you from their influence. It will not. It will not. I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen people, like I said, that go to church every Sunday, be influenced by them, be manipulated by them, be hosted by them. Religion alone is not a 100% guarantee of protection against them people. Alright, moving on. Next fact. They are total control freaks. They need to feel that they are in control. I've noticed this, that basically they need control. They thrive on having control and manipulating and being at the top and dictating where your path goes, where you're headed to. Everything about you, they want to control everything about you, because while they have the control, then basically you're at their beck and call. They are complete control freaks. The moment you challenge that control or stand up for yourself, then they will retaliate. They will retaliate. They do not like their control to be threatened. So, something to keep in mind, but basically, it's a mind game. It's a mind game. Yes, they have control over you, only because, in a sense, if you're unaware of them or fall for their games, you're handing it to them. The moment you claim back that control and that power over your life, they do not like and they do not want. So that's something to keep in mind, but you have the control over your life. They've just convinced you that basically they're in charge. Alright, it's an illusion. Smoke and mirrors, people. Smoke and mirrors. Alright, moving on to the next fact. Next fact. If they can't control you using an aggressive nature, they will use a passive-aggressive mentality upon you. So what I mean by this is if they can't put it over you and intimidate you and put you in your place and basically control you that way, if you stand up for yourself and basically go, no, it's not happening, and stand proud, head held high, proud, know yourself, know who you are as a person, and go with that. If their aggressive nature over you does not control you, then they'll use what would be considered a passive-aggressive. So ways they go about this is through family members, through your partner, and things like that. So just say you've got a natural flair for art or painting, and you want to become an artist or a painter. They'll use your family at first to be like, no, you're not doing it, you're not doing it, you're not doing it. Now, if you what would be considered rebelling, stand up and go, no, this is what's in my heart, this is my passion, this is my love, my joy, this is what I want to do, and you do it. All of a sudden the mentality will turn to, oh, well, look, yeah, but if you do it, there's a lot of artists out there that aren't very successful, and you could be wasting your time on a career that's not going to be financially viable for you. So you were seeing here, basically, they will try the aggressive nature to stop you from doing things that you enjoy, that bring you happiness within. When they see that you're standing up and rebelling against that, then they'll use the passive-aggressive nature to basically get in your mind and convince you that, oh, look, no, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do that, there's no money, there's no this, there's no that. This is what they will do. Even in regards with your partner. Just say you're in a relationship with a partner and you have a business idea that you really think is a great idea and it will do well. And your partner will be like, oh, no, we can't afford to do this. We can't. Look at the debts and look at this, look at that, look at the overheads, the costs. And if you go, no, screw this, stand up for yourself, know within yourself that this is a good thing and I really want to do it. And they realise that, okay, he's not backing down or she's not backing down, then they'll try the other side of it. Like, oh look, but this might put an impact on our relationship, or like we won't get to see each other and things like that. These are little tactics that they will use. If they cannot control you in an aggressive form, they will use a passive form to basically do the same control upon you. These two examples that I've just said to you now, I'm sure you may very well have found yourself, encountering these tactics used upon you at some point in your life. The Archons are master manipulators, and they'll use people around you and close to you to do these manipulations upon you to basically keep you down. They do not want you to grow and expand and try new things, because once you grow and develop, basically you come so far beyond their control and the plans that they have for us all that it's like you've broken free, and they don't want that. All right, moving on. Okay, this is an interesting one. Next fact. When they are hosting a person or are permanently attached to a person, they will never say sorry, even if they are in the wrong. Once again, this is another thing I've noticed. Basically, if you'll notice relationships and things like that. One thing I have noticed too is in a lot of relationships that are out there, what the Archons will do is they will influence or manipulate one party or one person of that relationship and use them to create dramas and disharmony and arguments between the relationship for the sake of generating energy. But pretty much what I mean by not apologising and things like that is, a good example. All right, here's one. Just say you and your partner. So it could be your female counterpart, or you could be a female and it could be your male counterpart. Just say you're in the house, right, and they're carrying a box along, and all of a sudden they drop it and it lands on your foot, and you go, ah. Now, a good, caring, compassionate, considerate, loving person will go, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? Are you okay? And console you. Put their hand on your shoulder and go, look, I'm very sorry, are you okay? Are you okay? A person who has an Archon attached to them, or acting under Archon influence, their response will be like this. What were you doing standing there? Why did you have your foot there? Like, what did you do that for? Instantly, they will turn it back on you. Instead of going, oh, look, sorry, when it was genuinely their fault that it happened, they've dropped it, it's landed on your foot. A considerate, compassionate person, the first words that will come out of their mouth will be, I'm very sorry, and try and console you. A person that has an Archon attached to them will instantly turn it back on you. What were you doing standing there? Why did you have your foot so close? This is them. And once again, you may very well have even noticed this yourself now that I've mentioned it. This is what they do. This is how they act. It's not within them to basically say sorry. They don't do it. They can't. It's like they're unable to feel compassion or be sorry for things that they've done. It's hard to explain, but I'm sure if you pay attention, you will see things like this happen around, and you'll think and go, wow, what he said in regards to them not saying sorry is very true. All right, move on to the next fact. All right, next fact. What do they look like? How to recognise or describe them. Now, I have said in earlier videos and things like that they can manifest themselves in many different forms or fashions. Excuse me. One thing I have noticed is if you actually do a Google search in regards to the Screamer mask, the mask with the big black eyes and the open mouth, and there's the painting of the Screamer guy. I've actually seen a few times that basically this is what they look like as well. They can take on many different forms. So the fact that I've seen that could have just been something that they wanted me to see. But yeah, Google search Screamer masks, and that's pretty much what their faces look like. They can assume many different forms, but yeah, that is one form that was presented to me that I've actually seen, and just wanted to let you know. All right, next fact. Once you reach a certain level, you will be approached by them. So while you pose no threat to them, they will not approach you. But if you do pose a threat to them, they will make themselves known to you. So what I mean by this is pretty much if they have control and influence around the world, and their goal is to basically spiral us into chaos and keep us all negative as much as possible. If you're too positive, too much of a positive person, caring, compassionate, considerate, and you're actually lifting yourself, you're raising your mentality, your awareness, your wisdom, you're in tune to a higher mind state than what you used to be, you will essentially get to a point where they will approach you, simply because just from who you are and the fact that you are raising to a higher level is a threat to them. It's a threat to them. They do not want you to bust through to the next level. So if you're becoming more, a term would be used, enlightened, so to speak, but just by growing through life experience, things you've seen, and you're on a better path, and when you speak to people, you speak from the heart, you give positive reinforcement to people, you give good advice, you stop, you listen to people's problems, all little things like this that are picking you up, raising you up to a higher level, a higher mind state. Once you reach a certain point that you do pose a threat to them, then you will be approached by them. Every one of you. May not be in this lifetime, could be another lifetime, but every single one of us, once we reach a certain point, a certain level in our life, you will be approached by them. Which actually reminds me, I remember once seeing a Snoop Dogg interview, Snoop Doggy Dogg, and pretty much he said something years ago, I watched this, where he said something in the same fashion, and I was only a teenager at the time and I didn't really understand what he meant by it. But in this interview, now I can't remember where it was or who was giving the interview or anything like that, but it just really stuck with me. He said basically, once, because they, how they say with the rappers and all that, selling their soul to the devil and things like that, he said in one of these interviews that once you reach a certain level, you will be approached. You will be approached. And at the time, I'm thinking, what does he mean by that? I now know that basically it's the Archons. Once you reach a certain level where you could potentially pose a threat to them, or they could use you for their agenda, yes, they will approach you. Yes, they will approach you. You will also be approached by the Archons as well as the positives, good, bad. It's entirely up to you which path you take and where you go, but I'll explain further in regards to that in other videos that I do, but that's just something I wanted to bring up with you all. Alright, moving on to the next fact. Next fact. Because you can't see them, it does make it harder to prove they exist, and they know this. Boy, do they know this. Pretty much with what they've done to me and things like that in my life, and they're quite cheeky and arrogant about the fact that they can't be seen. It's very hard to prove that they actually do exist. There's lots of videos that are surfacing now on the internet that show small telltale signs that yes, they do exist. There's a lot of debunkers out there and skeptics and people that will criticise against it, but because they know it is very hard to prove they exist, because we can't naturally see them, they are quite cocky about it. They've even said things to me in regards to what they've done to me in my life. They've basically said, what are you going to do? Go to the cops and get us arrested? They're like, you're going to look like a crazy man. You know what they do to people that say those sorts of things, don't you? So what they basically meant by that was, their sort of attitude was like, you can't prove that it was us. What are you going to do? Go to the police and tell them that, oh, look, the Archons have done this, the Archons have done that. They'll lock you up. They'll put you in a mental institution. They're quite cocky, and they will rub that in your face. They will rub that in your face. Because they are hidden, it's like they're quite arrogant and cocky about it, and I let it go, but it'll be a different ball game when the day does come, and it will come, it is coming, where they're going to be out in plain sight, and that attitude, I can assure you, won't be there anymore. Alright guys, I'll wrap this video up. Basically if you want to carry on to the next video to learn more, I guess I'll see you there, but thank you very much for your time.